Days passed like shadows, present, but without definition. I told myself she just needed time, that Zara would call or text, explain her sudden departure. But the silence stretched, growing heavier with each hour. I waited. I reread our old messages. I watched her online status blink in and out like a cruel game of presence and absence. Still, she said nothing. At first, I blamed confusion. Maybe she regretted that night. Maybe she felt embarrassed. But slowly, reality took shape in my mind. Maybe she felt betrayed. I tried to carry on. The bookstore opened and closed. Customers came and went. I greeted them with a forced smile that cracked around the edges. Everything in the shop reminded me of her. Her favorite reading chair, the poetry shelf she always lingered at, the empty mug she used to leave beside the register. One evening, I wrote her a letter. Not to justify, not to chase, but to say what I couldn't that night. I told her I crossed a line I should have never approached. I told her I valued our bond more than a moment of desire. I told her I would take full responsibility for the damage caused. I never received a reply. A week later, I ran into Maya, a mutual friend. I hadn't meant to ask about Zara, but the words slipped out. She's different now, Maya said carefully, withdrawn. She told me what happened. I nodded, ashamed. Did she say anything about... She said she trusted you, that you were the one place she felt seen, and then you made her feel... used. Those words hit like a punch to the chest. I opened my mouth to defend myself, but there was nothing to say. Zara was right. Regardless of intent, I had broken something sacred, her trust. After that, I stopped reaching out. I didn't want to deepen the wound. The guilt hollowed me. I stopped hosting evening book clubs. I avoided family functions. My world shrank to the walls of my apartment and the silent echo of what I'd done. What haunted me wasn't just the silence. It was the loss of something that could have been beautiful, something pure. I had always prided myself on being the protector, the safe space. In one moment of weakness, I became the opposite. I kept the poem she gave me, the one she said reminded her of us. I read it now with different eyes, seeing the foreshadowing in every line. Unwritten, unfinished, undefined. And maybe that was the worst part. That what we had never got the chance to grow naturally. That I broke it before it had the chance to bloom. Every morning I checked my phone, still hoping for a message. But all I ever found was silence. Months passed, but Zara's absence never faded. If anything, it deepened, like a bruise that never fully healed. Every place I went held a memory of her. The scent of cinnamon at the corner cafe reminded me of our winter chats. The bookstore's back wall, once her favorite hideout, now felt colder, lonelier. Time did its best to blur the sharp edges, but some truths don't dull. They settle into the soul like stones. I never saw her again. Not in person. But I heard of her. Through whispers, through friends too cautious to say too much. Zara had moved cities, accepted a writing fellowship. Her poetry was gaining attention. I saw her name on an online journal once. The title of the piece: The Night I Learned Silence Has a Voice. I read it slowly, line by line, like a man on trial. There was no direct mention of me, but I recognized myself between the metaphors. I was the man with gentle eyes and unsure hands, the one who meant well but crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. Her words weren't cruel. They were precise, honest, and heartbreaking. And in that moment, I realized something. I hadn't just hurt her. I had cost her a part of her own story, the freedom to grow without the weight of betrayal. She had trusted me with her vulnerability, and I mistook closeness for consent, emotion for invitation. There was no redemption arc waiting for me, no dramatic reunion, no apology scene in the rain. Life doesn't always script second chances, especially not for the ones who should have known better. I thought about writing her again, but what more could I say? Sometimes silence is the only apology left. And so, I let her go, not out of resignation, but out of respect. I began rebuilding myself, slowly, not out of hope for forgiveness, but out of responsibility. I started mentoring at a youth center, helping young writers find their voices. I reopened my book club. I faced the mirror every morning and asked the same question: who do I choose to be today? Regret, I learned, isn't about wallowing. It's about honoring the damage, owning it fully, and choosing to live differently because of it. Zara became a name I spoke only in memory, a symbol not of failure, but of a moment that taught me the cost of not pausing, not asking, not seeing the full weight of intimacy. And while the story between us would remain unfinished, it had taught me the most painful truth of all. That intentions, no matter how pure, mean nothing if they hurt the person you're meant to protect. I still keep her poem, folded carefully in a drawer I rarely open, not to dwell in the past, but to remember what lines must never be crossed again. It started with a name. Late one evening, while Arman was in the shower, his phone buzzed on the nightstand. I didn't mean to look, but the screen lit up twice with the same name. Nadia. That small red heart stung more than I expected. It was so deliberately placed, so unmistakably intimate. My stomach tightened. I didn't open the messages. I couldn't. But something shifted in me that night. I smiled when he emerged, hair damp, humming like nothing had changed. I kissed him goodnight, but my mind was elsewhere, looping through every unanswered call, every late-night excuse, every unfinished sentence he'd brushed aside. The next morning, I tried to ignore it. Tried to convince myself that Nadia could be anyone, a cousin, an old friend, a client with an unusual emoji habit. But denial is a cruel thing. It wraps itself around you like a blanket, only to suffocate you when you're most vulnerable. Days passed, and the signs became impossible to ignore. Arman grew more distant, his phone never leaving his side. He started locking it, something he'd never done before. When I asked what was wrong, he'd say he was just tired, that work was a mess. And yet, he never stopped showing up, still brought coffee, still held my hand in public, still kissed me like he meant it. But love, I realized, can sometimes be used to cover lies. One night, I followed a hunch. I pretended to fall asleep. Beside him, heart pounding, breath shallow. I felt him slowly shift away, gently, so as not to wake me. His phone lit up in his hands. I opened my eyes just a sliver. He was smiling at the screen, typing, deleting, typing again. I didn't say anything. I just turned over and whispered, "You're not as quiet as you think." He froze. The air between us snapped like a wire, under tension. He sighed, then placed the phone on the table and sat up. I didn't mean for this to happen. That was it. No denial, no excuses, just a quiet confession that shattered everything. "Nadia?" I asked, voice barely mine. He nodded. It was over. Then it wasn't. I thought I could keep both worlds apart, but I never wanted to hurt you. But he had. He had, and the worst part was, I still wanted to forgive him. That night, I didn't cry. I packed a small bag, took my charger, back, and left. He didn't try to stop me. As I walked into the cold night, the streets blurred by quiet city lights, I realized something. Love doesn't always leave when betrayal arrives. Sometimes it lingers, confused, unwilling to accept the truth it already knows. And that truth was now all I had. The days after I left Arman blurred into each other. Quiet mornings with no texts, long walks where I tried to remember who I was before he filled every corner of my life. His absence wasn't loud. It was a slow, dull ache that clung to everything. I kept expecting his name to light up my phone. It never did. For a while, I doubted everything. Not just him, but myself. How did I miss the signs? How could I have mistaken borrowed affection for real love? Each memory now felt like a trick, a carefully staged play I had willingly walked into. But even in pain, time, does its work. I deleted his pictures one by one, not in rage, but with reverence. Each image was a moment I once loved, even if it no longer held the truth. I returned his sweater, erased his contact, and stopped checking his social media. Healing, I learned, isn't a straight path. It's a loop of remembering, hurting, and choosing not to go back. One evening, weeks later, I ran into a mutual friend at a cafe. She looked surprised to see me alone. "You know he's still with her, right?" she said, almost apologetically. "But people are talking, it's messy. She found out about you too." The words didn't sting the way I thought they would. I just nodded. It wasn't my problem anymore. He'd made his choice, and I had walked away before it buried me. That night, I sat on my balcony with a cup of tea and let the cool wind wrap around me. I thought of the first time I met Arman under the bookstore awning, how innocent it all felt, how full of hope. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just tired. But beneath that weariness was a flicker of something else. Clarity. He had taught me things he never meant to. About trust. About listening to the quiet instincts we often ignore. And most importantly, about the kind of love I deserved. The kind that didn't require me to compete with shadows or beg for truth. I felt like doing it again. Falling, trusting, giving. Not with him, but someday. With someone who showed up fully. Who didn't ask me to wait in. Silence while they lived a double life. Arman reached out once after that. A short message. "I miss us." I didn't reply. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't forgiving someone who broke you. It's choosing not to let them do it twice. And so, I chose myself. The story didn't end with a grand betrayal or dramatic goodbye. It ended in quiet strength, in the reclaiming of my voice, my space, my worth. And that, I've learned, is its own kind of love story.